Hello everyone. Another video from Spar&Brawl and another one of these. Again, I'm gonna stop calling these new types of videos soon, but these are new types of videos that we try to focus on a single issue. There is not much back and forth. It's mostly facts, and frankly, the takes are short. And we thought this is probably a more efficient way to do them. But again, I reassure our usual viewers, Camille is out there, sort of semi-monitoring me while doing other things, I believe. I hope he said it's research and things, so I'm sure it's worthwhile. But so don't worry. If I say something truly bad, he'll either cut it out or sort of jump in somehow. But now let's get to our Pacific brief this time around. We are doing a tiny brief about the couple of Pacific region nations. In fact, two, Philippines and Japan only. Specifically speaking, let's start with Philippines. President Rodrigo Duterte, who's been, I'm sure a lot of our viewers know him, he's been compared to Trump. He came to power as like one of those people who was described as a populist wave that swept the world, along with Mr. Trump, Bolsonaro, I can never pronounce his name, Victor Orban, that type of figure. I believe before becoming a president or after becoming a president, he called President Obama, who I am not a fan at all. He called him a son of a bee, which was wow for a candidate. Like I am, but it's quite interesting that can you imagine if an Iranian president said that? But anyway, or a Russian for that matter, Russian president. But anyways, first we had the news that Filipino President Rodrigo Duterte. I mean, this is constitutionally in Philippines. You cannot run for a second term. There are 6-year presidential terms, and you cannot run for a second term. This is due to the many years of dictatorship, which we will come back to very soon. But he said that he's not going to run for presidency. Some people were worried that he's going to do a Bolsonaro, president for life type of move. His approval ratings were very high at the time, although since then they are sliding down. He announced that he's gonna run for the vice presidency instead. Again, Philippines political structure is quite odd. It's kind of you vote for very many different positions and all that. The rumors are that Sara Duterte Carpio, who's his daughter and current mayor of Davao, the third largest city in Philippines, is going to be running for presidency, and it's probably going to be a shoo-in for him. I'm not sure if like non-consecutively you can become president again, but he announced that he's 76 years old, but then later on he announced that he's not running for vice presidency. He came out pretty much for the second time, and he said he has abandoned his bid to become vice president in next year's elections, and this was in the heel of the fact that he had accepted the party's nomination in May, which could have, as it says, a controversial plan that could have allowed him to retain power beyond the limits of his 6-year term. However, recent polling suggests that many Filipinos disapprove of the idea, which critics warn would undermine the constitution. Yeah, and I think that's the key to his change of heart, so to speak, and using his daughter and some of his close allies apparently to run for offices, because apparently even in his home island of, I believe, by the way, I'm butchering names right and left, so apologies for that in advance and for previous crimes. His approval rating even in his own island of Manila is falling quite significantly. And he may, because even though they may like him, people fear another power grab and another dictatorship by a single family. Although interestingly, one of the people that is increasingly rising in the polls, while Duterte's daughter is actually relatively sliding down in the polls is sorry, I can't find a name again. Me and the names. I can't find the name, but is I believe a grandson or son of the former president, former dictator of the Philippines. So he is surging in the polls apparently as well. He's somebody who's emerging, while Sara Duterte is actually sliding in the polls. Apologies for not remembering and not having the name in. I thought I have it right in front of me, but you know how it is. Yeah, so I think that's the main reason why he's trying probably to remain more popular for longer years. Although the fact that he's 76 years old makes me wonder. I'm 31 years old and I'm pretty much given up on any dreams or anything like that. But these people, I guess that's why they win in the end. They just never goddamn give up. But yeah, so he's imagining, I assume, when he's 82, he may be able to come back to presidency, or maybe through Senate or something, he may be to wield some influence. Who knows? But yeah, these were the latest from the Philippines, and I would be glad if anybody can, by the way, direct me to any publication that is honest and good in regarding Philippines and all that, because yeah, personally, I don't have that much, sadly, information uh, regarding the country. So now moving on to Japan, and partially not more, I mean, I don't want to say more important, but maybe more globally significant news. Um, yeah, we had a couple of news coming from Pacific that is, I mean, it's mostly about Japan, but it doesn't involve Japan. And I'm going to go chronologically first. So first, we had a security pact deal announced between Vietnam and Japan. This was right before AUKUS deal was announced, and it didn't garner much attention. But this is also equally indicative of an increasing securitization of the Pacific region and the increasing fears of Japan, India, and U.S. Western allies, whatever you want to call them, or regional rivals of China against China. And this security pact was done just before the AUKUS deal, and was done by the former foreign minister. I think the foreign minister that has kept his job. We'll get into that in a bit. I just would like to point out that, especially in Japan, even more so than country like UK or Germany, where civil service and continuity, in my view, is the rule of the day, Japan is probably the peak nation in those terms. Like, the level of continuity in Japanese politics is extremely important. So whatever I'm describing in the next few minutes, keep that in mind while I'm discussing this. Because then, following this Japanese deal, and due to the fact that the Japanese prime minister, the former Japanese prime minister, before getting to that, Japan and Vietnam have agreed to, the Japanese defense minister, Nobuo Kishi, was the person who was the crucial person in the Japanese-Vietnamese deal, the Japanese defense deal. And he said that the Japan and Vietnam plan to deepen defense ties through Japan and Vietnam plan to deepen defense ties through multinational joint exercises and other means. So this is a real security deal. And it's very important. Vietnam is very close to China, and Vietnam used to be a big ally of China. So again, quite a big shift in the region, but not so much in Japanese, probably, politics, so to speak. Now, on the other hand, we had a new, sorry for the hiccup, coming back to Japanese politics, mostly Japanese internal politics, we had a new prime minister, Fumiya Kishida, who was a former foreign minister, and I believe he had a couple of other ministerial jobs. He's also seen as somebody close to Shinzo Abe, a not the previous, but the former prime minister of Japan, the longest serving prime minister of Japan, I believe, since World War II. And he's been a defense minister, Mr. Kishida. Sorry, I'm just going through notes because all the names and all that uh, are quite very hard. It's very hard. Anyway, he replaces Prime Minister Soga, who was in position, I believe, less than a year. He was the right-hand man and Shinzo Abe's sort of enforcer in the Japanese parliament, and he was seen as a continuity candidate as well. But his handling of COVID and his lack of charisma, and to be honest, and frankly, we'll get to that in my own analysis. I think many years of Abenomics, as they called it, or right-wing politics, sort of made him very, very unpopular. So he couldn't hold on to power much. And now I believe legally he's still the prime minister. The process will take a while, or maybe they just switched things. But for all practices, in effect, Kishida is Fumio Kishida is the new prime minister of Japan. Now, Fumio Kishida, very interestingly, he's also seen as somebody who's very close to Abe, the former Japanese prime minister, and his economic policy, which was by many described as neoliberal and welfare for the rich. But in his campaign for running and his recent speeches, he's talked about increasing governmental spending. He's distanced himself from Abenomics, and increasingly even the Japanese Liberal Party, as they are known, they are moving to the left. Again, Japan and UK, I think, are very similar countries in many ways, and Japanese Liberal Party is very much like the Conservative Party. They are very nationalistic, and in terms of foreign policy, which I'll just get into, you see that more and more. In terms of, for example, right-wing policies, there is expectation of little to no change. In fact, they expect, as somebody who was a defense minister and a foreign minister, Fumio Kishida might even be more right-wing than Abe. Soga didn't really get to exercise much of a foreign policy, to be honest. He may have a harsher stance on China, according to some articles. I mean, these are highly biased articles, by the way. I've been because, for example, I've read, for example, this is an article. Let me see the exact source. By this is an article written by Shashanka Mato from. Sorry, I don't know why there is no name for the website, but I think it's called Indian News website. I believe that's the name of the website, if I'm not mistaken. I'll put the link. But the title of the article is "Why Rise of Fumio Kishida as New Japanese Prime Minister is Good News for India." So in all these type of English written articles that I have read, there are talks that he's better, he's harsher than Abe on Japan, and in their view better than Abe on China, and that the fact that he's gonna become the prime minister, we're gonna see a more active policy from the Japanese side. But again, I say all of this, and at the end I sort of undermine my own talk. But take all of this with, like, change in politics is very gradual and very tiny, and like the differences between these politicians are tiny, but is indicative of larger trends probably. So take it for what it is. So yeah, that was the more recent events in the Pacific, and a tiny bit, I think this time I didn't really separate my personal takes very well, but I think you could probably by now tell where are facts and where are some of my own views. And yeah, I hope you listened, I've watched, whatever. I hope it was worth your